Hey, what's up? How you doing? Welcome to this very special episode of the Wait, What Was I Doing? A Squirrel, an Ape, and a Trash Panda's ADHD podcast. Today's introduction is going to be a little bit more serious than previous introductions. Safe words are more than likely not needed, but I guess feel free to tell us just to be safe if you'd like. Today, we're going to be talking veterans and ADHD. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart as well as Patrick's heart, because we both served in the military. Not so much to Spaz's, because Spaz lacks a heart, but
it's true.
He makes up for it in spirit. So
I do have spirit.
We keep him around. In this introduction, we want to give you a little bit of a rundown about Patrick and myself and our military service. So Patrick, why don't you start? Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your military service?
So I joined the military in 1997. I joined the Navy. I left and went through boot camp and was stationed in Groton, Connecticut. I went through submarine school in Groton, Connecticut, and machinist mate A school. Then went to auxiliary school after that and was stationed on the USS Maine. I re-enlisted in the Navy in 2001. Went to the USS Frank Cable. Did 2 years on the USS Frank Cable, flying all around the world fixing submarines. And then finished my time in the Navy on the USS Ohio in Puget Sound Naval Shipyard in Washington. 6 months after that, I ended up joining the Army. Joined as an infantryman, went through airborne school, went through air assault school, went through a whole bunch more schools. I'm not going to list them all. But I served for 4 years in the Army before I was injured, and my knees were finally deemed as not...
military appropriate?
I was not put fit for full duty anymore. And I was given my retirement papers and sent on my merry way. And that was in 2010. While I was in the Army, I served in Korea. And I was also stationed with 4th Brigade, 1st Armored Division, based out of El Paso. Lee?
Hey, my first duty station was El Paso. Anyway, I joined the military in 2006. I joined the Army as a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear specialist. It's a fancy title for meaning I taught some people and did a lot of maintenance on equipment. I did basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and I also did my AIT there, OSET training, what. You're not going to catch OSET training for CBRN anymore. I was the last class that went through it. Sorry, suckers, you're a bit too late. My first duty station was El Paso, Texas. From there, I went to Suwon, South Korea. Came back to El Paso, Texas, which is Fort Bliss, by the way. Went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And while I was there, I deployed to Bahrain. Yes, I said deployed. I was Army. They counted it as a deployment. Don't fucking at me. Came back to Bragg and was medically discharged for an injury that I received during a training accident. So I was in the end of 2012. So that was my military service. I made it up to Sergeant E5.
When I retired out of the Army as a Sergeant First Class. E7.
I did none of the above.
So yeah, that's a little bit about us, our military service, for those of you that were curious or haven't heard us talk about it before. So let's just go ahead and jump into this. Let's talk a little bit about military, mental health, ADHD, and whatever the fuck else comes up.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, well, let's do this. Well, here we are. ADHD in the motherfucking military. I'll have you know, this was a requested topic. Originally, it was a requested topic for me to make a TikTok on, given my military service, from another military member, Cajun, who is one of, believe all of our followers.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Follows all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Cajun. How you doing?
Member of the community.
Told you I got you, boo.
Another content creator.
I was serious about that. Yeah, another content creator over there.
I think it's funny how the idea started as a TikTok video, i.e., between 15 seconds and 3 minutes, and now you're going to turn it into an hour and a half.
Well,
Question mark,
we
question
will
mark.
see. But this is also going out to out to all of our fellow neurodivergent ADHD folks, veterans who have served, because we love you and we appreciate you and we think you are awesome people. So
Yes. So the first thing I want to do is take care of a little bit of business that's not on the homework assignment here. And that is to remind everybody that there's a difference between Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and Armed Forces Day. If you live in the United States of America, please do every veteran and military service member in your life a favor and learn the difference between the three of them. Memorial Day is for those that died. Veterans Day is for those that have served. And Armed Forces Day is for those that are currently in the military. We each have our own day.
yes.
All of November is also Military Appreciation Month.
Hey, wait, did you hear that? There's an entire month for Military Appreciation Month. So
Who knew?
for those who whine about it,
Especially during Pride Month.
right? Go fuck yourselves.
I'm looking at you. Fuck you.
So, anyway, sorry.
I'm
Sorry.
a queer fucking veteran,
Right?
bitches.
I was a queer.
I get 2 months.
I was a queer active duty member too. So go fuck yourselves. So
I'm just queer.
I was in during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, so.
same with me. But anyways, we digress. Thank you for learning the differences, because if you wish me a happy Memorial Day, odds are you're probably gonna get an earful, if not a fucking face full of fist, because that is not my day.
Yeah. Nothing makes me happier than being a veteran reminded of the fact, or told Happy Memorial Day on a day meant to remember the people that I served with that didn't come home.
Anyways.
Well, before we get too far into it, as the Canadian in the bunch and the guy who is probably going to be saying the least, because a lot of this topic does not pertain to me because I am neither American nor a veteran, on behalf of all of those who are listening, I would like to thank the both of you for your service.
Shut the fuck up. No, I'm kidding.
All right, well, hey, here's me trying to be thoughtful.
We appreciate it.
Whatever you snarky bitch.
No, I appreciate it. It's also note that as a veteran, I don't know how you feel about this. This might actually be interesting, Patrick. How do you feel when people thank you for your service?
It was a job. I sold my body to Uncle Sam to get education benefits and healthcare for life. I don't think I did
You hear
anything.
that? He was a whore twice.
Twice.
Yeah. I don't think I did anything overly special or I did my job. I took care of my soldiers. I fixed the submarines that I was supposed to fix. It was a job. I don't generally like being said, told thank you for your service. Now, if it comes from a friend of mine who it's coming from the heart like Spaz, then I will accept that. But if you fucking walk up to me on the street as a stranger and you're like, oh, thank you for your service, I generally don't like that.
So I have such a weird relationship with thank you for your service. And here's why. I served for 7 years. I say almost a decade because I was supposed to serve a decade and then I got injured, but that's a completely other story. I served. I did time. I intended to make the military my career. The military is something that is important to me. But I feel awkward when people say thank you for your service to me. Like, I don't know how to respond to that because I don't go up to a game developer and say thank you for your service or thank you for making this game.
Interesting parallel.
I don't go up to the people who, I don't go to a nurse and say thank you for your service, even though nurses right now are on the front line of a completely different kind of war.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very strange for me, but where my issue comes in is the fact that I am a veteran and my husband is still active duty. And because I'm a female, I'm overlooked.
Mhm.
My husband gets thanked for his service, and he will constantly turn around and say, she was in too. Or I could be wearing all of the identifiers that I was in the military, except for like the caps that you see the Vietnam vets wear, because I never looked good in those. But, I mean, I'm a member of the VFW, for Christ's sakes. And so it feels weird when I'm with my husband, and we'll have even talked about the fact that I served, and they'll turn around and they'll thank my husband, who might be in uniform or wearing a shirt from his unit or something like that, and not say anything to me. So I don't know. It's a very
I can understand
weird.
That, I can almost see. We have not run into this yet, but Amanda, my girlfriend, is a veteran as well.
Hi, Amanda.
And I tend to have all the traits of being a veteran. You know, I wear military shirts and stuff like that. And we constantly, when we go to the movies, there's a parking spot right up front generally that we can almost always get into that's a veteran's parking spot. And I have to wonder, like, if I'm waiting for the day where somebody is like, oh, thank you for your service to me, and going, well, she's a driver and a veteran. Why don't you thank her instead? So
yeah, it's a very weird position to be in. And if you're a female veteran, I'd like to hear your take on that. Like, does this happen to you?
So, anyways.
And if so, how does that make you feel?
Appreciate it.
But in case, so today we're going to be talking about military and ADHD in honor of Veterans Day.
And, well, I guess we should start where every dumb fuck recruit for the military starts your journey at MEPS.
You start with the basics?
Yeah, let's start with MEPS.
Let's start with MEPS.
ADHD is considered a disqualifying disorder in the military. But people like me who had ADHD managed to navigate and create systems and find the rigidity of the military as a way to deal with your ADHD while you're in without seeking treatment. So it's definitely an interesting thing.
Well, I think the most interesting part about it is that they disqualify you.
Mm-hmm.
But as we're going to talk about later on,
you can seek treatment. The
things that disqualify you are the same things that they treat you with.
So
without disqualifying your service.
So let's talk about what the disqualifying factors are for ADHD and military service.
Because like everything in the military, it's needlessly complicated.
Yes. So if you meet any of these qualifications before you join the military, while you're in processing in, you will be disqualified from military service based on these factors. So ADHD medicine prescribed in the previous 24 months. So within the last 2 years, you were on ADHD meds. An educational plan or work accommodations after the age of 14. A history of comorbid mental health disorders, or documentation of adverse academic, occupational, or work performance. Which I find kind of a joke because the military does not give a fuck about your education or your work performance unless you did like crime.
Yup.
So that one is one of the ones that I highly doubt will ever be held against you because they let dumb fucks like me in, right? So for those who don't know, I had a 1.8 GPA graduating high school. So, I did not have good grades. I had very adverse grades, and they still let me in.
So overachiever you were not, is what you were saying.
No, fuck no. So these are all disqualifying factors for ADHD and joining the military. And ADHD and disruptive behaviors disorders are generally considered one of the highest forms of disqualifications for military service that is found during MEPS. According to this process in 2017, it was the 5th most frequent medical disqualification for first-time enlistment candidates. So it's not uncommon to be booted from initial intake for ADHD.
I just want to say that, like, I know saying this isn't going to do anything. It's not going to fucking change what the what is and is not considered a disqualifying factor for the military. Like, I'm just a fucking podcaster in bumfuck Georgia. Like, they don't give two shits about me. But it's so fucking arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does having a workplace or a school accommodation
Why?
have to do with anything?
Why? Right? Why? Okay. And so here's the funny thing is ADHD medication in the past 24 months, yet if you're in, you can get medication for ADHD and you're totally allowed to re-enlist. So why is the first enlistment a problem and not the second or third or however many enlistments you have? There's no real rhyme or reason to this. And the best part is the military in general tends to love ADHD people.
See, I would think that it would be an addiction risk factor. Maybe that's the angle they're looking at it from.
They let druggies in all the fucking time as long as they pass their fucking drug test at MIPS.
Right?
Like,
and they get drug tested all the fucking time too.
Once again, somebody who knows fuck all about nothing.
Oh, shush.
There is a very extensive drug testing system in the military.
My name always came up on piss tests.
I was a piss test coordinator in Korea, so I didn't have to.
I was what we affectionately called a meat gazer once I became an NCO.
Yep. So, and for those who don't know, you do have to go and do your urinalysis with somebody in there watching you in the military,
like a fucking hawk.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, we're gonna go off of that topic, anyways. But yeah, addiction is not really a factor. Now, there are some things like I can understand some things that are like physically debilitating if you can't get your medication and you're stuck in the field. But if you have ADHD, it doesn't, and you're not on your meds, it generally doesn't debilitate you, right? Because you're stuck in this rigid structure and you've accommodated to this rigid structure. Will you suffer? Will you be less effective? Sure. But the Army doesn't care about less effective soldiers for the most part. Or generally the military, right? As long as they got the numbers, that's all they really care about. So I don't personally understand why it's a bar to enlist in the military. Because I know many, many, many people who have undiagnosed ADHD who succeeded, including myself, including Lee, who were undiagnosed while they were in and succeeded in the military and had very successful careers. Mm-hmm. Right? So it doesn't make any sense to bar people. You're just removing potential candidates who might be able to succeed because guess what? They probably have less trauma than, us undiagnosed folks.
It's entirely possible. It sounds like they're just broad stroking for the sake of broad stroking.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's very arbitrary, but it is what it is. They're not going to listen to me.
Disqualification factors aside, I want to cover our own asses. We are not telling you this information so that you will go and lie on your intake forms to get into the military.
That's a federal crime.
Please keep in mind that doing so will get you in a lot of trouble if you get caught.
Here at the Wait, What Are We Doing podcast, do not condone any kind of criminal activity. Disclaimer.
Mm-mm.
This is true. So, do us a favor. Do yourselves a favor. Tell the truth when you go to MEPS.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not saying that once you're at MEPS that there won't be one or two people working there who will tell you to omit things, because that happened for me.
And me.
But don't lie about it.
Mm-mm.
Don't do. That's not the one you want, dude. That's not the one you want.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Don't lie. And, yeah, just don't lie. I can't think of anything else really to say other than that.
Don't do drugs, kids.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, unless they're prescribed.
Don't do unprescribed drugs, kids.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay. So, and with that, I think it's time to, we'll go ahead and take a break and roll into how the late life diagnosis plays into it, veterans for coming up in the future now. But that will be after a word from our sponsors. Do you have an amazing friend who just cannot seem to see how much they rock? Does their rejection sense of dysphoria and imposter syndrome smother all the joy out of their achievements? Have you tried beating them upside the head with the love bat from Squirrel, but it just doesn't seem to sink in? Well, I have an exciting new opportunity for you.
Hi there, I'm Autotori, Processing Manager here at Squirrel, and I am happy to announce our research teams have been working overtime to develop our newest product, the Tactical Love Nuke. This product is guaranteed to smother its victim in love, or incinerate them trying.
Your friends and loved ones won't stand a chance when you launch this love bomb their way. Please use caution, as this could lead to them possibly catching the feels, or developing feels of attachment because you showed them love and affection. The Tactical Love Nuke from Squirrel Co. The only way to make sure that motherfucker knows that they are loved. Coming to an ADHD Incorporated store near you soon.
When we take a look at statistics with ADHD, we notice that later in life diagnosis is one of the fastest growing demographics for ADHD. We're learning it's not just a kid's disease, that there is so much more. And the military is not immune to this.
I'd even say that the military is probably one of the biggest catch-alls for it, because people like me who did poorly in school did not have a whole lot of options. So I kind of was funneled right into the military. And the reason I did not have good grades in school was because I had ADHD that I did not know about.
The number of VA patients that are diagnosed with ADHD has increased from about 6,500 in 2009 to 30,000 in 2016.
1,000.
For a total of more than 96,000 new cases overall. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. Let that number sink in.
That's a wee bit of a jump.
Oh, and let's take into a factor. Let's take into one small factor here that there was a boost in military membership during that time, but not enough to correlate to that kind of jump. Okay, because we were in the middle of recruiting for a very long war at that time, so we did boost our recruitment and our military membership, but not the factor of that.
The incidence of ADHD increased from 0.14 to 0.48%. That is quite a jump. And I think the thing that I find most interesting about this is that some of the statistics that we see outside of the military correlate with the statistics that we see inside the military as it relates to ADHD diagnosis. So, for instance, outside civilian sector, we see that blacks and older individuals have a tendency to not get diagnosed as often. It's the same when we take a look at black veterans and older veterans. We see that there's an increase in people ages 18 to 29 years old being diagnosed. That is the same by over 4% as of 2016. And I think one of the things that I found most interesting in this was that the prevalence and incidence of ADHD was greater for women than it was for men of ADHD. And the reason I think that astounds me is it holds true to statistics that we see outside the military, where women are one of the fastest growing demographics for ADHD, because it's now becoming it's becoming easier for AFABs to be diagnosed with ADHD. It is now recognized that it's not a little boy's disease and that women and girls can have it too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other thing that really kind of throws me off is that the military is a very male-dominated world.
Very much.
Very male-dominated. So the ratio of men to women in the military does not mirror the ratio of men to women in the civilian sector.
Mm-mm.
And yet, within the military, both the prevalence and incidence of ADHD were greater in women than it was in men.
Mm-hmm. That's not surprising to me, truthfully. You know, I with the increase of women entering the military, and with the increased knowledge that women can have ADHD and it's actually present in them, and now it's being sought out and understood a little bit better, I'm not surprised to see it rise as much. The other factor that I will say that probably plays into this is that factors of like what I had, where I still refuse to seek out treatment and medical treatment
this is true.
Because of the military the way the military taught me that going to sick call is bad and you shouldn't do that and things like that. And men are more subjected to that. You know, the idea that you need to be a strong man, don't be weak, don't show weakness, right? Like that type of mentality is massively prevalent in the military still.
Very much so.
Which
I
leads me to believe that men are probably not seeking treatment way more often for their things that are affecting them until, you know, but like you said, the 18 to 29 year mark, right? That's a new generation of kids coming through the military who are less likely to ignore themselves and fall into the brainwashing type thing aspect.
And I was going to point out too, like I've heard you say countless times, the amount of, shall we say, machismo that comes with the territory of, you know, just suck it up. I think you said last episode something about, you know, rub dirt in it and just keep going.
Just
right?
rub some dirt on it and keep going on. Yep.
Yeah, that kind of mentality.
Take some ibuprofen, drink some water, change your socks.
There you go.
Yep.
Right. Then the younger generation is, as you say, likely to be less susceptible to that kind of bullshit. Honestly,
they question things more.
Yeah.
Which in the military is generally not good.
No, that's kind of dangerous.
For themselves is good. So
yeah,
and I would agree with the statement that women are more likely to seek treatment.
Yeah.
My husband and I, like, my husband's still active duty.
Mm-hmm.
And I have always been one of those people that when I was injured or if I was in pain, I would go to sick call and address it and make sure that it was documented in my file. Like that was if there was one thing my father taught me, it was to ensure that everything was in my medical files for when I got out. And I took that to heart because that was to set me up for my future.
Yeah.
So I would make sure I have everything documented. My husband, on the other hand, refuses to go see the doctor for anything until it is like too late. Like now he has to have surgery on his neck. Too late. And a lot of that I think comes from that mentality of I can't go to sick call. It looks bad on me if I go to sick call.
Yep, definitely.
And I think that is definitely, I believe, doubly true when it comes down to mental health and the stigma of mental health within the military.
Wow. Like, okay, so PTSD has taken a big prevalence in the military because of 20 years of warfare, right? We've been fighting wars for 20 years at this point. So PTSD has taken a really big prevalence in the military. But do you think the military has embraced it? Not a chance in fucking hell.
They'll say they do.
They say they have, but they don't. You still get frowned upon for seeking out treatment. You still like they will force you to go to the appointments that you are required to go to, right? That your command will, but they will never ever encourage you to do anything else, right? There are a ton of other things that you can do that are options that are available for military members, but the military won't let you do that. Like not the military. They never encourage you to do that. They don't discourage you generally either, at least not actively. But and that's the same with all mental illness. Like they're and this spans back to the time when I was in the Navy. Like we weren't even a fighting unit in the Navy. Right? And we still dealt with this. Like they didn't encourage you to seek out treatment. It was a big fucking deal that I went to see a counselor, a marriage counselor with my wife at the time because we had marital problems. And it almost cost me my clearance, right? Like the military looked at that and said, well, he's seeking, you know, psychiatric help. And they put me through a pretty extensive procedure to maintain my top secret clearance at the time because I was working with nuclear weapons.
And that's
so
all because you were seeking marriage counseling?
Marriage counseling.
And they viewed that as a detriment to your ability to hold a fucking secret?
It was, yeah, because I was working with nuclear missiles. So That was the thing. It wasn't even that I was working with nuclear missiles. I didn't work on the nuclear missiles. I didn't work on anything nuclear in the military at all. The submarine is powered by a nuclear reactor. I was not qualified to work on that reactor.
Right, but because of your proximity.
I did not actually work with the missiles, right? But I guarded it, right? Because I was guarding them, there was a stigma attached to me seeking out psychiatric care for counseling for our marriage, and it almost cost me my clearance to be able to guard these things.
That's ridiculous.
So
that seems a bit extreme.
Right, so there's that there's that stigma right there, and then then you add the tough guy machismo, don't do that type of shit, right? Don't show weakness, be strong. You're a big strong guy, right? Mental health is only for weak people, right? And you just get a lot of there's no active discouraging, right? Like there's no active discouraging in the military of going to at least none that I saw. Personally, I've heard of some active discouraging, but I never saw any active don't go, right? It was always, if you need to go, go. But there was the wink, wink, nod, nod, don't go because, it'll look bad on you.
Well, it hurts unit readiness.
Yes.
You can't get medication if you are deployed, or what is your risk if you don't have this medication and you're in your fucking...
You might disappoint your uncle.
It'll cost you your chance to go to the board. It'll cause you to not make deployment, which could cause, do significant harm to your career. Blah.
And I like how
blah.
I've heard a lot of stories from veterans talking to them for mental health games and stuff like that, talking about how they sometimes chain of command ends up using that exact thing, unit readiness and deployment, and guilts the soldier into not going by saying that you're letting your battle buddies down.
Right.
If you go to seek that help, because then that is, you might not be able to deploy on this because there are certain mental health conditions that do prevent deployment, or, you won't be present for XYZ training exercise because you have an appointment here. And it's that kind of mentality does so much damage.
Yeah. And again, like I've spoken in many of the videos and many of our podcasts and stuff like this before, that type of mentality was drilled into me throughout my 13 years in the military. And it took so much unprogramming that it took me almost a decade after I got out to start seeking depression help. Just depression. Right? And now I've worked my way up through, my other mental illnesses and my other neurodivergencies and things like that. And I've gotten to a place where I feel like I'm finally addressing almost all of my things. But I've been out of the military for 12 years now. Like, it took me 12 years after being out of the military to deprogram myself. Almost the entire length of my career.
You've been out for just about as long as you were in.
Yeah, right? To deprogram myself from the mental... kind of crush that they put on don't go to sick call. And it starts at basic. Like, don't go to sick call, because if you miss special training at basic, you could get rolled back. Right? And it goes on from there.
And if you out there are one of the people who agree with this archaic line of thinking, 1, get with the fucking times. 2, stop listening to my fucking podcast, because I don't need that kind of negativity around here. We don't fucking shame people for trying to go get fucking mental health.
Never.
We ain't desperate. We don't need you.
Never.
That is not okay. It is not okay to let somebody suffer for the sake of unit readiness.
No, ever.
When, what are you going to do if that person is injured? Like that's how I never really understood why we view, especially like going for mental health and stuff like that. That goes back to that seen versus unseen disability, where if somebody is physically injured and needs to have surgery, then by all means, stay back from your deployment, stay back from the training exercise, convalesce, do the things that you need, go to your physical therapy appointments. But if you have a mental health condition they tell you, no, you shouldn't go seek the help that you need because you might be a detriment to us. Motherfucker, if I'm not on my medications, I'm going to be more of a detriment to you. If I don't have that person to talk to, I am more of a detriment to you.
It rolls to a little bit about what we talked in episode 6 about stigmas, right? There's this long-held stigma against mental health in the armed forces, right? It's a stigma. It no matter how much you push against it, it's never going to change, right? This is so entrenched inside the military thinking that it would take a pretty revolutionary and dynamic change in all the leadership, not just officers, but senior NCOs, mid-level NCOs, and the leadership across the board to change the idea and the thinking of it. Because there have been a lot of officers who've come in and, like a lot of senior enlisteds, like sergeant majors of the Army, who talk up the mental health game, but the rest of the commands don't fucking embrace it because there are too many old timers out there that maintain this stigma that mental health is bad. It's going to hurt the unit. The unit is God, and you should just fucking fall in and do what we say.
The whole idea of something like that, and I get so many other parallels drawn in my head when I think about that. This as a whole, the unit in this example, is more important. The good of the many being more important than the good of the one. 9 times out of 10, I will agree with it. 9 times out of 10, the good of the many does outweigh the good of the one. There's my nerdy little Star Trek reference. Thank you. But not when it comes to the mental wellness of an individual.
People have ended their lives over shit like that.
Yeah.
I'll even expand, because the military, while we're talking about ADHD, this type of thought process in the military also includes physical wellness, right? Like, so if it affects your wellness, your ability to live, right? And you're like, fuck you. Like, I did not get my back looked at while I was in, right? At all. Now I suffer from back pain all the time.
I was about to say, how high is that regret?
Yeah. Like, I suffer from it all the time. And I'm jumping through massive hoops to prove that my back pain came from my military service, because I don't have a lot of documented incidences of getting my back looked at in the military, because I just sucked down a bunch of Motrin and I drove on.
Private candy.
Right? Because that was my don't let your physical wellness get in the way of, military, the unit strength, right? And it's a mentality that crosses mental health and physical health.
When it comes down to mental and physical health, the military is a fucking cult.
So remember, for all you people who are thinking about joining the military, and I'm not saying don't do it, you are an investment in it. You are a tool that has been invested in. That is all the military thinks of you. Your job is to come in, learn, and do the military's job for you. They do not care what condition they return you in. They literally don't. So you have to take care of yourself. You have to be your advocate and your protector for that. At the end of the day, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying that a military career is a terrible thing. I very much enjoyed my career.
Time.
I was going to be a career NCO. I did not make it that far because I got injured, but still, I was at 13 years. I was beyond my halfway point. I was on the downhill slope towards retirement, right?
Like anything, be aware of what you're getting into.
Yeah, if in the military, if you stay in for 10, you're doing 20.
Yeah.
Barring things like injury.
I am not discouraging people from going to join the military. It was some of the best times of my life. But I bought into the cult mentality, and I am paying for it now at 42 years old, where I have a body like a 70-year-old.
Yeah, we're just saying that if you go into the military, just
take
be
care of
aware of
yourself.
the fact that you do need to advocate for yourself.
Yeah, you have to take care of yourself. You have to, because they won't.
Learn your regulations.
Well, that just sounds like good ADHD advice in and of itself.
Yeah.
Advocate.
This is true.
Truth.
So we're going to go ahead and let that sink in for you. And we're going to take a break, let you listen to some sponsors. And when we come back, what are we talking about, Patrick?
We're going to be talking about ADHD and military treatment options.
That's right, because you can't come in if you have ADHD.
But you can stay in if you do have it.
But you can stay in if you get diagnosed while you're in.
And that's coming right up.
On the next episode of The Pretty and the Petty, tragedy strikes. As Leon is hospitalized after a car accident, Patricia not only has to cope with the loss of her planner, but is also left without her body double partner. Will she break down and call an old flame to fill that void? Find out on The Pretty and the Petty, The Lounge's #1 soap opera. Weekdays at 2 p.m. Only on Channel 80, in HD.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you this breaking news story. I'm your on-location reporter, Falsey News. Police were called in to investigate reports of a strange creature floating in the waters between the turf of the Mafia family and the Gorilla Gang. Eyewitnesses claim that a supportive octopus was greeting passers-by with words of encouragement. Chief Boyardee has released a statement saying that there is no cause for concern, but cautions the public to beware of surprise 8-armed hugs. We will bring you more on this story as it develops.
In the criminal justice system, squirrel-based offenses are considered especially heinous. In the Squirrel Station, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Special Squirrel Unit. These are their stories.
This week, Sergeant Chris enlists the help of Gothic the Medium to investigate sightings of the mysterious demon behind the Cult of 13. Meanwhile, Dr. Kate tends to a wounded Detective Pie Rocks after a cookie baking accident. Catch part 1 of the season finale of Squirrel Squad 6 this Tuesday night at a special time, 7 p.m. local time, only on Channel 80 in HD.
So, as we said at the end of the last segment, you cannot join the military if you have ADHD before you join, unless you do not meet the criteria, like you have not taken meds and you did not have accommodations after 14. But that being said, you can be diagnosed with ADHD in the military, and it does not affect your career by that, there's no regulations that say it will not affect your career.
I'm going to say this one more time, just to drive that fact home. You can be diagnosed with ADHD while in military service, and it does not affect your career. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that this is going to fall on some deaf ears, and those are the same people who think that they can't go seek help for depression because they're in the military. And this comes from the archaic belief that the military will end your career if you seek help for mental health. And while we did just talk last segment about how the military does frown unofficially on seeking help for physical and mental health issues, that doesn't mean you're not allowed to use them. They are not allowed to prevent you from using them, and they're not allowed to bully you for using them.
You cannot be refused mental health or physical health treatment. It's one of the things that you are always allowed to do. Sick call is there from the day you join the military on, right? You could be a brand new recruit in the military, and you have every right to go to sick call in the morning and take care of yourself. Okay, it's a thing that's guaranteed for us, right?
Malingering is a thing.
Yes.
So don't do that.
What's malingering?
But for those who don't know what malingering is, it's falsely going to sick call over and over and over again to get out of duty.
Thanks, I learned something new.
Yay!
I'm contributing.
You're doing great, Spaz.
Yay me.
But that being said, again, like we said, you can be diagnosed with mental health issues, including ADHD, while you're in the military. And there is no regulation at all that says that you cannot. It can affect your career. As a matter of fact, it will not bar your reenlistment, nor can it be held against you at boards.
Nope.
So
I don't even think they have access to that kind of information at the board, right?
They should not have medical information at your board, and except for if you are on
profile
or not. So, but that being said, and for those
for civilians, a profile is a piece of paper that comes from a doctor saying if you have limited duties, this is what your limitations are. And when we go to take a physical fitness assessment, it will tell you if you can't do a particular event or if you have to do an alternate event. And it comes in two forms, a temporary and a permanent. A temporary lasts anywhere between 1 to 30 days. At the end of 30 days, it has to be renewed if it's going to be used again. A permanent is just what it sounds like. It means that you permanently have these restrictions.
And if I remember correctly, when I was in the Navy, it was called light duty. So,
that's what it was called when I was working the rail yard too. I was put on light duty. Light duty refers to like a very particular set of those in the Army.
Light duty in the Army is different, but light duty in the Navy is not a. They don't have profiles in the Navy. They have light duty.
I ain't in the fucking Navy.
Well, I was, fucker. So, anyways,
why not both?
So, you can get medication for ADHD while you're in, including things like Adderall and Concerta. These are not disqualifying factors for you, right? These can be prescribed by a doctor and not end your career. So don't let people tell you that you should not be seeking out mental health help and getting the medications that you need to treat your mental health while you're in. These do not, again, I cannot say this enough, will not damage your career. There's nothing that says these can damage your career.
If you take nothing else away from this podcast and you're in the military, take away the fact that seeking mental health services is not a bad thing, and that being diagnosed with certain mental health conditions do not bar you from reenlistment or harm your career, ADHD being one of those.
Yes. There are some that will end your career, of course, like because of certain conditions. But that being said, it does not matter. If you have a mental health issue, you should address this, right? It is 100% there. Mental health services are there for you to use. You should be using them, right?
Yeah.
Things, and the military is totally accepting of, like, I say totally accepting. The military will make a big scene about, helping you with anxiety and using anxiety meds and sleeping meds. God, do they pass out sleeping meds
like
for PTSD?
Fucking candy.
So they're not opposed to handing out medications for you, right? And a lot of people don't look at it's not looked down or not looked down upon. So why would specific meds like ADHD meds be looked down upon? I just don't understand the backing behind, or the mentality behind that, right? You're forced to get PTSD assessments when you get back from overseas. You don't have a choice, right? You have to go see somebody. You have to go talk about things. And man, you will walk out of there with 3 or 4 sets of pills that you have to take almost all the time, right? I think I came out with 3. I came out with an anxiety med. I came out with a sleeping med, and I can't remember what the other one I came out with was, but I had multiple medications after I had my assessments. So, they make a show that it's a good thing, right? That they're there to support it and help you and do the things.
And don't get us wrong, there are some chains of command who are 100% pro take care of your mental health. They are out there. Definitely.
I am speaking from personal experience. I was never in a chain of command that actually supported mental health care. And seeking out mental health care. So this is a personal experience from my aspect. I, like Lee said, I know there are groups out there. And again, I haven't been in the military for 12 years now. Things may have changed some. From a lot of when I talk about it on my TikTok and my videos and stuff like that, I have a bunch of people who have been out more recently and say that things have not changed for them. So, it is a hit or miss thing. It's like everywhere. It's like good businesses, right? Each chain of command in the military is kind of like a separate type of private business, right? They're all interconnected in some form or another, but they're slightly different.
They're franchises,
right? They're slightly different. So you might have a great chain of command in one unit, and then you move to another unit, and it's fucking terrible, right? So you always have to look at that as well. So that being said, next segment we're going to roll into is our personal experiences with ADHD while being in members of the military, and that that's going to be painful. Yes, that will be painful.
For once, not for me,
not for you. We will get back to you after a word from our sponsors.
What kind of tea gets the bees in your brain buzzing? A tea with so much energy you won't be able to process it fast enough. A tea that enhances every thought stored in your brain and keeps you active long after the day is done. Introducing Anxiety. Anxiety starts out strong, so it lasts long, thanks to a proprietary blend of vitamins, minerals, ADHD, and a splash of excessive worry. Simply steep anxiety for 3 minutes, stir, and enjoy. Anxiety, when the thing is never enough.
So this is where we're going to talk about our personal experiences in the military with undiagnosed ADHD.
Do we have to?
We have to, yes.
I don't want to.
It's like not a trip down memory lane I want to take.
So there are a lot of things that I want to talk about in this aspect, but I'm gonna talk about a little bit about my time in the Navy, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about my time in the Army and how ADHD affected both of them. Undiagnosed ADHD affected both of them. Now, keep in mind, I did not know, and my ADHD was definitely hacked by the military. I did really well in the military because of my ADHD, and they used it really, really well, to the point where I didn't really know I had ADHD. I felt like I fit in normally with most of all the other people.
That has to do with the structure, though, because people with
Exactly.
ADHD do well with structure. We just suck at creating routine.
Yes, absolutely. And when it's created for you, you can stick to it pretty damn well. But, so let me talk about my time in the Navy. So I was a submarine mechanic in the Navy. I worked on all the non-nuclear equipment on a submarine. My first tour was on the USS Maine. And I re-enlisted on September 2nd of 2000, or September 6th of 2001, which kind of sounds like pretty close to a familiar day, right? Like just a few days before a pretty traumatic event. And during that time, during that re-enlistment, I received, for 5 years of additional service of my life, I received $45,000.
Nice. I only got 10.
How much of that do you think made it to anything worthwhile?
Wait, can I jump in on this one?
Go ahead.
Not a fucking thing.
No, it was a fucking thing.
Okay.
There was a little bit.
I would say maybe $5,000.
Yeah, it was about $5,000. And the reason why I say it's about $5,000 is because I was married to a neurotypical at the time, and she managed to pay off a couple of bills for us. But I blew every fucking thing else on impulse spending, right? Hey, guess what? There was my ADHD that I had no idea I had a problem with right at that time. The only money that I was going to ever get from the military worth a decent amount of shit, and I didn't save any of it. I didn't put any of it away. I didn't take care of myself. I didn't put anything into my retirement. So, I was in trouble. It was a problematic situation. But then I rolled into the one place in the Navy which hacked my ADHD like nobody else's business. And that was when I moved to the USS Frank Cable, which is a submarine tender in Guam. It's a surface ship, right? So I served on a surface ship as a submarine guy, but I was there to be part of the submarine repair department on this ship. And I got selected to be part of the quality assurance program on this ship for submarines, right? And I was tasked to create packages and procedures and do all the research for obscure jobs that had to be done in theater. So not in shipyards and things like that. I had to maintain the level of qualification and testing and certification on these pieces of equipment while replacing them to maintain the submarine's safety rating so that it could continue to go out to sea.
Hey, what's theater?
In theater would be a area of operations where they're conducting military operations or war procedures at.
So you mean it's not just a place that overcharges you for popcorn and shit?
No, it's not a place that overcharges you for popcorn and shit.
I want to make it perfectly clear that I knew that. I just knew there were civilians
I know
listening.
I knew that too, surprisingly.
I spent a lot of time leaving that ship that I was stationed on and going to all over the world, truthfully, where submarines were breaking down and fixing them. And this required a lot of attention to detail, in a rigid structure, a lot of research, right? Which sounds like may not always be the best thing for ADHD, right? Except for I was always super interested in what I was doing.
Stop fucking taking my examples.
It was a really easy way to hack my hyperfocus into creating these procedures, which were a lot of these times were first time jobs ever done outside of a shipyard, right? So I had to coordinate with people all over the world to do these jobs. As a matter of fact, one of the cool things about I say one of the cool things, it's probably one of the most miserable experiences of my
Isn't
Navy
it funny
career.
how we changed the narrative to
Right.
what was cool and what wasn't when we're out?
was I spent 2 weeks in the Pentagon. And I say it's cool because I was in the Pentagon, except for I had admirals walking in and out of my temporary office there talking to me. Okay, these are guys who are like
No.
old guys in the Navy, right? Have been in forever, and I'm just this lowly E5, which is a mid-range enlisted guy who had only been in for 5 years at that point.
Fuck
Right? And I'm
that.
talking to guys who have 30 years of submarine experience, right? And I'm telling them that they're wrong, and they need to redo their training and relearn their training. And this is talking to a general, basically. It's the same thing, admiral, general, right? Interchangeable. Right, and I'm telling these senior guys that they're wrong and how we have to rechange our thinking. So the Navy and the position that I was in absolutely hacked my ADHD because they used my hyper focus. They used my the ability for me to pay attention to detail and accomplish a job, become a expert in a field very, very rapidly. To become, like I said, I was just a guy in at 5 years at that point. Yeah, was I qualified on submarines? Sure, but the funny thing was I wasn't even qualified on these submarines. All these submarines were fast attack 688 class submarines. I qualified on a nuclear missile submarine, which similar but different, right? Not quite the same platforms. So I was able to become an expert really rapidly, and it caused me to fly all over the world and fix submarines all over the world. To maintain them in their theater of operations so they can continue to support the war effort. So that was definitely my interesting ADHD hack. So I shared one negative and one kind of cool thing about my ADHD in the Navy. So.
Well, speaking about like hacking your shit, right? So my job when I was in the Army I was a 74 Delta. That is a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear specialist. It's a really fucking impressive title, ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
It just means I maintained a lot of equipment and taught a few classes on NBC environments and shit like that.
I love how the longest titles mean the least.
they were a pogue. That is what they really were. So. For those who don't know, pogue means people other than grunts. That is the infantry's wonderful term for everybody else.
I was also in an airborne unit making you a leg.
What was I? Do you remember?
Taller.
No, I don't.
Why is my back so fucked up? I was airborne as well.
Fuck! That's right.
I'm going to stick with my first answer.
I tried to pull that off too.
So I got a couple of those colorful berets. So
just long nights of fucking shaving and shaping a beret before inspection.
Berets come fuzzy, and the military does not like them fuzzy.
Every fucking time I see Spaz's beret when he puts it on, and he's Jamie,
I want to shave it.
I want to shave it. I want to shape it, and I want to slap him upside the face with it.
Right? I want to make him. I want him to wear it properly. It makes me so mad.
Give me a
I
goddamn
literally have
Bic.
no fucking idea how to fucking put it on.
I will teach you when I come up. That'll be. I will teach him when I am up there after this releases.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Listen,
or before this releases.
Listen, give me a coffee can, like a big coffee can, a Bic razor, some water, and a freezer, and you'll have a brand new fucking beret.
Right? It'll look amazing.
All right, then.
So, but anyways, that being said, go ahead, Lee.
All right. No, I loved my time in the military. Well, I mean,
The one time you want to get the person who never shuts the fuck up to actually speak, and they're actually backing down. I need to mark this on the whiteboard.
I'm not backing down. Listen, nobody likes talking about Article 15s.
I'll take your word for that.
Okay, for those playing in the crowd who do not know what an Article 15
Or
is,
sitting here.
the military has a program.
Is that what we're calling it? A program?
Yes, you can get non-judicial punishments. So you can either be tried in a trial for making errors and breaking laws, or you can waive your trial and allow your unit commander to dispense justice for your transgressions.
You don't get to choose. I'm sorry, that made it sound like you get to choose. You don't get to choose if you're
no.
If you're at,
you do.
If you're
you can refuse an Article 15 and request a trial.
No. You get that choice. You can't choose the other way around. If they want to take you to trial, you can't ask for company grade.
Truth. Yes, you can always refuse a company grade Article 15 and request a trial. It doesn't work the other way. So, but anyways, go ahead.
I was a bad kid.
I'm not surprised.
Smoking cigarettes in the back alley with my leather jacket.
On the wrong side of the tracks. Welcome to the origin of the real Trash Panda.
God, I hate talking about it. And I did nothing to deserve either one of these Article 15s, but here we go.
Hey, Lee, if it makes you feel any better, I got a captain's mask, which is the same thing as an Article 15 when I was in the Navy.
So, no shit. There I was. Korea. 2006. Yeah, 2006, 2007. I was in South Korea, and best fucking year of my life. Best fucking year of my life. I met my husband. I fucking did a year in Korea, which is an amazing country, and if anybody ever has the chance to fucking go to Korea, do it. In a fucking heartbeat. Don't contemplate it, just fucking go. Do it for the food alone.
Oh God, yes.
But the culture there is amazing. The nightlife is on fucking point. There's always something to do there. I threw that one in just for you, Spaz. I'm not really a club goer, but I went to one or two of them.
I used to be. I don't think I am anymore, but the thoughts there. I dig it. I could dig the scenery.
The only advice I would have is stay away from the places that are all lit up with red lights.
Oh, yes.
You know, those red light districts, they aren't just in movies, they actually exist.
Yeah, I think that's a flag anywhere.
Oh, you know, like the glass houses, right?
Mm-hmm. Not like I haven't fucking walked through one of those before.
This is my shocked face.
I think everyone who goes to Korea who's not a barracks rat at least ends up walking through a red light district once.
So story time, real quick, before Lee continues, is we talk about glass houses. The best idea that I can talk about glass houses is picture an old Korean lady standing in front of it, doing the skit from Dusk Till Dawn in front of the whorehouse.
Oh my.
That's what they are.
That's what they are.
So, anyways.
The ajumas,
legalized.
Yeah, it's all legal in Korea.
Yeah.
Not for the soldiers. It is illegal for the soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because we have to follow military law. But
yes,
in Korea, prostitution is legalized.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The idea is not the act.
You have ajumas standing out front, and they'll walk up to ajumas like an older lady. They'll go up and they'll grab onto the men and stuff like that, and try to pull them towards the house. Oh, you come see pretty lady. She treats you real good. You know, it's
what you like. Which one you want? We have all the colors and shapes and sizes you could ever want.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you've heard this speech once or twice.
Oh, maybe.
Like I said, every soldier who goes to Korea, if you go to fucking Japan, you end up walking through a red light district. It fucking happens. Sometimes they're in the most random spot. Like the way we ended up actually walking through the red light district was because we went to a little hole in the wall restaurant, and then when we were coming back is when the lights had come on and all that stuff, and we realized we were in the middle of a red light district.
Whoopsie.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Korea, 2006, 2007. Highly recommend it. Go if you get the chance. Covered all the bases. Okay.
Article 15 time.
Remember a couple episodes ago when I was talking about a particular sergeant, Sergeant Green?
I do.
Yeah, he comes into play here. Mind you, at this time, I was a private first class. So I was in E3. And we had been in Korea for 2 months, maybe? No, it had to be less than that because Blunt was still there. So this had to be within the first 2 months because the previous unit that we were left seat, right seat ride with, when you go to a new place and you're replacing a unit, they stay for a specific amount of time to show you everything in that area and show you like the job that they did and stuff like that. It's called Left Seat, Right Seat Ride. So Blunt was one of the guys who was in my unit. So I was the only NBC person, but I was attached to all of like supply and everything like that. So he was with supply, I was NBC. And we all went out one night. And Blunt needed to come back early. So we grabbed the train to come back from where were we? I think we may have just gone out to Osan. I think we were at Osan. We were going back to Suwon. Not that means anything to anybody here, but it's important to me, okay? So we're on the train, and while we were waiting for the train to arrive, I'd pulled out my wallet. And I'd set my wallet down to go back into my bag. But the train arrived at the exact same time. And I got up and I accidentally left my wallet on the fucking bench.
Lost your ID.
As soon as I came back to the train station in Suwon, you have a ticket that you have to put through in order for the gate to open, and I couldn't find my ticket because it was in my wallet. We ended up riding the train all the way back to Osan to ask them, and they didn't know where it was. They didn't see it. Nobody turned it in. It wasn't where we were sitting or anything like that. So I had no military identification, and my chain of command had to come get me at the gate.
Jesus.
You want to talk about fucking embarrassing. So where our unit was, we were the only Americans on post. And we had to walk about 3/4 of a mile to get to the barracks from the front gate. And the entire time we're walking there, my sergeant is just berating me the entire time about how I could lose something so fucking important like my fucking military ID. Like, I didn't already feel like shit. Now, in the military, this is a huge fucking deal.
In 2006, 2007, that was the reason it was really such a big deal was because of terrorism.
Well, this was also the year that North Korea almost went back to war with South Korea.
Oh yeah,
I was there for that.
Mm-hmm.
We thought that we were going to have to actually go to war.
Yeah. So.
But no, it was a safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
I lost a sensitive document because ID cards are documents.
Mm-hmm.
And I got an Article 15, and I lost a rank, so I went down to PV2. I lost pay for 2 weeks, and I had to do 2 weeks of extra duty, which means that from, I want to say it was 5:30 p.m. until 11:30 p.m. I had
After
to do
dinner.
I had to do chores and shit like that, and Saturdays and Sundays was like from 8 a.m. till 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do whatever it was that they wanted me to do. I just remember scraping wax up off the fucking floors for hours on end.
Oh, gross.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Good times.
All the shit jobs. All the shit jobs.
So, my ADHD made me set down my wallet and forget that I set it down in the rush to get on the train. Simple mistake that I feel like could happen to anybody. I mean, how many times have we fucking... I can't tell you how many times I've put down like a water bottle.
Oh, God.
Like a nice water bottle, not like one that I get out of a vending machine, but like one that I spent money on and left it someplace, like at the doctor's office, or my therapist has a habit of having to return it to me the following week. So, that's a thing.
What? Somebody with ADHD putting something down and forgetting where it is? Unheard of.
I know, right?
Hey, Spaz, did you ever find your coils?
I did.
On Sunday?
Did.
Yeah, they were in his
they
car.
were in the car.
They were in the car, right?
Yeah, because I put
I
them in the
remember
car
that.
when I went down to see Moose at Comic-Con. And, I never took them back out. Whoops.
Yeah. My second Article 15 was when I was in Bahrain. So this was 2009, 2010. This is less ADHD related, but I did say I got two, so I'll tell you how I got the other one. Another kind of fucked up situation that I shouldn't have got. Well, I did kind of deserve the first Article 15. If we're being honest, I deserved it. I lost a classified document.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, not so much, though. The second one is I had an additional duty while I was deployed, and that was to be the mail handler for our unit. It's an important job, and you have to go through and, like, take tests and shit like that to do it. It's fucking a pain in the ass. But basically, my job was to go to the post office, grab all of the mail for our unit, and deliver it to everybody. Seems easy enough, except when you're deployed, it's a lot of packages. And what I mean by a lot of packages is not care packages from people you know, but packages from, like, churches, companies that are, like, sending you free shit because you're deployed, the nonprofit organizations that put together care packages and stuff like that. All sorts of people just send packages, and they're called Any Soldier packages. What they'll do is they'll go on to a particular website that will tell the person sending the package the name of a soldier that is deployed. So they had our entire unit roster. They would send out a package, and the way these packages were addressed would be to insert soldier here, and under it would say or any soldier. So because units and people were moving all over the place, your soldier wouldn't always be there, so you could give that package to anybody who didn't get one. This is right before we were leaving, and our first flight out, our Advon team had just left. And there was a particular soldier that was on that plane that I ended up having gotten a package for 3 hours before he left. It was an Any Soldier package. I didn't notice it until after he left compound. So, what did I do? I gave it to Any Soldier. And my commander had a fucking litter of kittens over it. Because it was addressed to a specific soldier. Or any soldier, directly underneath it. Mind you, I didn't get along with several people in my chain of command.
I can't imagine.
What?
I know. This makes me sound like I didn't get along with anybody, but this was Captain Hauk. This was different. Captain Hauk didn't like the fact that my husband and I were deployed together because she wasn't deployed with her husband. Her husband was someplace else.
Aw, someone's jealousy was showing.
Yeah. And you can ask just about anybody in our unit that was the fucking case. Like, she made special accommodations for. We had spouses because we were on 2 continents. We were on Bahrain, 2 countries. We were in Bahrain and UAE. Mm-hmm. And we had another couple who was separated. One was in UAE, one was in Bahrain. And one came over on a pack flight, which is just a flight with a bunch of supplies and shit for one unit to another. That came over, and she was like, "Oh, let's make special accommodations. We have an empty room here. We'll let them spend the night together." But if my husband and I were seen within 10 fucking feet of each other, we were too fucking close. It was bad. It was rough. It was a pain in the ass. We got in trouble for...
Yeah, that sounds dumb as shit.
We got in trouble for being off-duty in civilian clothes, holding hands.
That's excessive, in my opinion.
That was her problem. And this was like the last jab she was going to get at me, and she demanded that I take an Article 15. My first sergeant told me, this is dumb as shit, but I have to do it. I waived my right to the Article 15 at company and went to trial after, because everybody has to go through JAG if you get an Article 15. They review your case, tell you if it's legal or not, and what action you should take. My lawyer told me that she didn't have a fucking leg to stand on and that I needed to take it to court-martial. And at first I was going to, but court-martial takes a very long time. And as weeks drug on and I didn't hear anything about it, my anxiety started getting really high. I started getting really fucking just antsy. And there goes the first leg back home. There goes the second leg. And my husband and I are supposed to be on that third leg. And if I don't have my court-martial before then, I get stuck in country. My husband and I had just gotten married right before we deployed. So we haven't even been married a year yet. And I wanted to be with my husband. And I ended up pulling back my court-martial because I didn't want to get left in country. So I ended up taking the Article 15. This did, however, give the first sergeant a chance to calm the commander down. So I didn't lose any rank, I didn't lose any pay, and I only had to do 7 days of extra duty, which as a sergeant is just ordering other people around to do stupid shit and supervising it. So
Glorified babysitter.
I would actually get in trouble for helping. Anyway, that's the story of my second Article 15. I'm done talking now. I'm sorry.
No worries.
No.
Don't be upset.
No. Sharing your story.
I will go ahead and you remember in episode 6 when we talked about was it perseverance, right? And how
no, we didn't talk about that just an hour ago.
What was the it was how
resiliency?
Not resiliency. What was the one the other one for pettiness?
No, that was persistent.
Persistence.
Yeah.
Persistence. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, my army story is about persistence for an ADHD person. We're persistent as fuck, right? Right? Like
no.
Super persistent as fuck, right?
Never.
So, I left the Navy. The housing market crashed. The shipyard stopped hiring. And I was left without anything. Like my whole backup plan to go into the shipyard and work in the shipyard went right out the window. So I had nothing else to do. So the Army called and said, "Hey, want to join the Army?
Do you want to join the Army?"
Sure, why the fuck not, right? So I took my testing and everything like that, and I fucking scored through the roof. And they were all like, "Oh, I've got all these jobs for you." And I was like, "I want to jump out of airplanes." He's like, "But, well," I'm like, "No, I want to be in the infantry and I want to jump out of airplanes." And he's like, "Fuck." Right? And like, they tried so hard to get me to change my mind. Wouldn't change my mind. Right? So I got my airborne contract and I joined the Army and I went through Army boot camp, which was a joke for me because I was an NCO.
It's called basic training, motherfucker.
I was a sergeant. And it was a joke. No, it's called OSET for the infantry. Thank you very much.
OSET is one station training. It's basic and AIT rolled together. I did OSET 2, bitch.
So, but it was a joke for me because I was an NCO. So like I had to, I had my evenings off. I had my weekends off. I had my phone. I could, it was not basic training for me, basically. It was just a refresher course, basically, to get me conditioned to the infantry, which wasn't hard. So I got through there, and I wore my Navy pens. I wore all of my Navy pens while I was in, because I earned these motherfuckers, right? And they rode me hard. "Oh, you Navy guys think you're going to jump school," and I persisted, and I, got the good PT scores, and I got a boot camp, and I went to the jump school, and then I went to, all the other schools that I went through, all the other high level schools that I went through before I went to my unit. And I remember consistently in one of my schools, that the guy looks at me and goes, "Aren't you a little fucking old to be here?" I was like 28, right? Like I was 28 years old.
Well, I mean, to be fair.
To be fair.
To be fair.
Okay, to be fair, yes. In the infantry, 28 years old is old. You're fucking old, right? And he's like, "Well, you're gonna fucking wash out. You're never gonna make it through this school." He's like, "It's too physical. It's too tiring. It's too draining. You're gonna be out."
I'm not gonna do something you say.
Right? That's exactly what happened, right? So I was like, "Okay, motherfucker, let's game the fuck on."
Game on.
Right? Not only game the fuck on, so during the last week of this training, I crushed my ankle in between two trees that were in the water. Swelled up like a fucking right? Like, I'm getting my ankle looked at, the instructor is standing with me, and the medic is looking at my ankle, and he goes, "Yeah, he's not gonna be able to continue. We're gonna have to take him out of this training." Mind you, I'm 5 days from graduation. And I look at this kid and I go, excuse me? And he's like, yeah, you're not going to be...
Like hell you are.
He's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to continue. I was like, okay, so here's the proper phrasing. You better relearn, you better rethink what you just said, because if you say the wrong phrase to this instructor again, I'm going to beat you to death right here. And he looks at me and goes, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, give me your tape, give me your brace, and get the fuck out of here. And I taped up and braced my ankle and tied it up as tight as I fucking could. And I powered through and I graduated this school. Right?
Please note that Nurse Lee does not condone this in any way, shape, or form.
Patrick does not recommend this anymore because I have bad ankles for this now. Thankfully, I got those looked at, and they are in my medical records, so they do help me. That does help me a little bit. Still wasn't a great idea.
No shit.
But I powered through because this was an 8-week school at this point in time, right? And I was going to get recycled back, and I was going to have to wait until the next class came through and fuck no, I was 5 days away from graduation. So I walked on a fucked up ankle for 5 days just because this guy said, oh, you're not going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I graduated, I made sure I was standing right in front of him the whole time going, not going to make it, huh, fucker? Right here. Come on. So, yeah, maybe a little bit of persistence problems in the Army. And that kind of drove through the rest of my career as well. Of, I always made a point of wearing a Navy award on my uniform. Mostly my Dolphins, my submarine warfare pen, because that was the one that meant the most to me in the Navy. I worked my ass off for that pen, right?
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, I didn't talk about it. In the Navy submarine fleet, you have to earn your submarine warfare pen within a year of reporting to a submarine. And what that means is you've learned the basics about every single system on board and how they interact together, right? Because you're in a closed fucking coffin in the ocean, right? You have to know a little bit about everything just in case shit goes bad, right? So to get this pen means you did all this and you are a recognized member of the community now. Right? So that was a big thing for me. So I wore it all the time, even in my Army uniform. And I loved the guys who came in and they're like, oh, Mr. Navy guy, well, I'm going to do, this. I had this Ranger guy, this Ranger Sergeant First Class who thought he was going to be a big guy and fuck with me, right? Because I had my submarine pen on, right? So he challenged me to a PT test, not knowing that I had the highest PT score in my unit at the time. And so I was like, let's skip all the rest of the bullshit. No push-ups, no sit-ups. That's all fluff. Everybody knows the run is the big one.
No fucking lie.
So I know that I can run flat out the 2-mile run in 12 minutes. Now,
nice.
When I get done with it, I'm going to throw up everywhere. Right? Because it doesn't matter. I'm going to be sick because I know I can run flat out in 12 minutes for the 2-mile run at that point in my career. Right? He doesn't know this, so he's like, okay, let's do the run, right? And I just fucking smoked this guy. And my first sergeant is just giggling. Just laughing his ass off at this guy going, you're the dumbass that challenged the Navy boy to a running contest. What he did not do, or what he did not think through, was I told him, if I beat you, then you have to do a swimming test with me. I broke this man. He couldn't walk for 3 days. It was amazing. Challenge me. I'm a Navy guy. Let's see how fucking well that works out for you. I'm not a persistent fuck.
I had, I was the only female in my squad.
Mm-hmm.
And I always hated the fact that our squad leader would try to do something extra for whoever scored highest on the PT test, right? Take him out to lunch, do something like that. It was with the understanding that if he beat us on a PT test, that we would all take him out to lunch. And mind you, there are five of us and one of him. So when he kept beating us, it wasn't that big of a deal because we got to split the check 5 ways. But I was determined. I can't beat him in push-ups. I can do sit-ups with the best of them, but push-ups I can't. Keep in mind that a female's center of gravity is different than a male center of gravity. This is why on the PT test, females have to do less push-ups than males. I could always pass my push-ups, could always pass my sit-ups. I always used him to pace my 2-mile run and always fell short. Always fell short. So I made a deal with him once that if on the next PT test, if I beat him on the run, that he had to treat the entire squad. And he was like, okay. So I just remember this is the fastest I ever fucking ran. I ran so fucking hard.
I bet.
Mind you, he's not running a 12-minute 2-mile, okay?
I was an infantry grunt.
We did run a 14:37 though.
That's not bad at all.
For a female
Mm-hmm.
who had 21 minutes to run 2 miles.
Yep.
14:37.
Mm-hmm.
I whooped his butt. Okay, I didn't really whoop his butt. He came in a few seconds behind me, but I beat him. Him in the sprint. Damn it!
Right?
So he had to take us all out to lunch, and that was fun.
Nice.
Nice.
But
I talked about the negative, shit with my ADHD and leaving the fucking card at the train station. But I want to talk about a time where I kind of like Patrick hacked my hyperfocus, and that was maintaining my CBurn office. Mind you, I didn't have people to compete with or anything like that. I was the only person in my unit, or not in my unit, but in my company that did what I do. So my supply sergeant didn't really understand what went into maintaining my office or what I did. And because of that, he used to think that I was slacking off all the time. And we didn't have this was Sergeant Daniels, this was after Sergeant Green. We didn't have a bad relationship. He just didn't understand the additional stuff. He had never been in charge of the NBC NCO. He had always just been in charge of supply. So when he would come in to my office, it would look like I was doing nothing because I was doing Pomodoro method before I knew what Pomodoro method was. So I might not be doing anything at that particular time except on my fucking phone or something like that. So he used to think that I was not a shitbag soldier, but that I was lazy. And then we had our post inspection. And for us, this was specifically for NBC. And people in NBC have several different checklists that they have to follow. They have to be maintained. These are long, detailed fucking checklists that include certain things that we have to have with certain equipment. Things need to be stored a certain way. There needs to be certain notifications outside of our office. We have to have certain publications on hand at all times. We have to have certain records. We have to have records for all of our masks. All of our equipment has to be maintained. We have to show receipts for any equipment that's not in office. We have certificates that we have to get renewed all the fucking time just to operate the equipment. And these are long, and there are two separate things we get tested on: the chemical, biological side, and then the nuclear side, the radiological side. So this huge inspection comes, and this is like the biggest fucking thing somebody who's an NBC NCO is going to go through is fucking this thing right fucking here. I passed with flying fucking colors, and that's because the week before my inspection, I was able to hack my hyperfocus to work my way through a detailed fucking list and organize everything exactly according to that list. 100% according to that list, word for fucking word. And in doing so, not only did I pass the exam, or the test, not the exam, the test, the inspection, that's the word I'm looking for. Not only did I pass the inspection, I received accommodation from the post commander for my scores on my NBC room. And my NBC room became one of the 2 NBC rooms, the other one belonging to the chemical company down the road. We were the standard. We were the only 2 that received perfect fucking scores on our shit, and we became the standard. And the battalion made all of the other company NBC NCOs, or battery in our case, because we were air defense artillery, come to my office so that I could show them how to fucking set up their rooms.
That had to feel pretty fucking good.
Right? That was awesome. But I have a question for you, Lee. So, were you able to use your ADHD to beat the board in the Army? Did it work for you?
I don't know if it was so much the hyper-focus on the studying, which did occur, or the fact that the only way I was getting married was if I passed that board, because my husband and I were engaged, but he was a staff sergeant. He had just gotten promoted to staff sergeant, and I was still a specialist. And that's a relationship that's not supposed to happen.
No. Yep.
In the military, because that's an NCO and a junior enlisted. Luckily, our chain of command knew that we were dating before he made staff sergeant, and like they had no problem because we weren't in like the same platoon or anything like that. So I'm not sure so much if it was the hyper focus or the fact that I had the external motivation to get married.
I will say this: my staff sergeant board was a surprise.
Surprise, motherfucker! You're going to the board.
It was a whole lot of, hey, you got
mail.
I just thought that too.
Right? Yeah. Like, you've got 48 hours until the board. You're going to the board.
They gave you 48 hours to fucking study for a board?
And, no. Not only study, my uniform was not ready yet because I was a Navy guy. I had transferred over from the Navy. So there was a lot of things that I did not have on my uniform yet. So I had to hand sew my uniform. I had to learn all the Army regs again because I was fairly new, right? I had to learn all the Army uniform regs outside for the dress uniforms.
670-1 if anybody's interested in learning what those are. AR
670-1.
AR 670-1. The shit you fucking remember when you get out of the military.
And I did it out of pure persistence and spite, right? Like, fuck you fuckers for setting me up for failure. I'm going to prove you wrong. And I had the second highest recommendation from the battalion or staff sergeant when I passed my board.
We're talking about boards, and now I'm trying to remember the creed of the non-commissioned officer.
Yeah, fuck that. That was 10 years ago.
Oh, fucking A. I remember the soldier's creed.
I remember the I don't even remember that anymore. I've given up on that shit. That's all useless information for me anymore.
But I think my brain has wiped, like if I have somebody I'm saying it with, that way when I fuck up a certain part. But yeah, now the NCO creed is 4 paragraphs?
4 paragraphs, last time I remember.
Something like that, yeah. So. No one is more professional than I. I am a non-commissioned officer, a leader of soldiers. As a non-commissioned officer, I realize that I am a member of a time-honored corps which is known as the backbone of the Army. I am proud of the Corps of non-commissioned officers and will at all time conduct myself so as to bring credit upon the Corps, the military service, and my country, regardless of the situation in which I find myself. Yep. I will not use my grade or position to obtain pleasure, profit, or personal safety. Competence is my watchword. My two basic responsibilities will always be upmost in my mind: accomplishment of my mission and the welfare of my soldiers. I will strive to remain technically and tactically proficient. I am aware of my role as a non-commissioned officer. I will fulfill my responsibilities inherent in that role. All soldiers are entitled to outstanding leadership. I will provide that leadership. I know my soldiers and I will always place their needs above my own. I will communicate consistently with my soldiers and never leave them uninformed. I will be fair and impartial when recommending both rewards and punishment. Officers of my unit will have maximum time to accomplish their duties. They will not have to accomplish mine. I will earn their respect and confidence as well as that of my soldiers. I will be loyal to those with whom I serve, seniors, peers, and subordinates alike. I will exercise initiative by taking appropriate action in the absence of orders. I will not compromise my integrity nor my moral courage. I will not forget, nor will I allow my comrades to forget that we are professionals, non-commissioned officers, leaders.
I had to memorize that in 48 hours.
I think that's about what it took me to remember that. So
word for word. So I think that wraps up this episode. We are glad to do a very special episode for veterans, especially those who...
I'm sorry. Random fucking thing that I just saw on this. It said for almost the first 20 years, many Army creative the non-commissioned officers and publications had the second sentence in the paragraph as I will strive to remain tactically and technically proficient. However, in 2001, the Army had a team of contractors who created FM 7-22.7, the Army Non-Commissioned Officers Guide, who apparently transposed the sentence to I will strive to remain technically and tactically proficient. To compound the problem, the NCO Journal printed a story in May 2010 which correctly identified the field manual had precedence over other forms of publications like DA pamphlets, so it had to be right. No historical research appeared to have been conducted, and it's unknown if any of the other sources cite the original source. So technically, you're right if you say it either way.
Right? Anyways. Okay, so I think that wraps up this episode. We wanted to give a big shout out to all of our veteran followers out there.
Yeah, y'all okay.
For this very special Veterans Day, we salute you all, our brothers and sisters. So thank you guys again for joining us, and we will go ahead and wrap this up after a word from our sponsors.
I'm the Gipper, and I'm on the street looking for suckers or potential customers for my Just Try Harder plan. Hey, there's a little girl right now. Hey, little girl, are you having trouble getting things done?
Yeah, I sure am. I'm having trouble.
Well, if you join the Gipper's Just Try Harder plan, then you'll be able to accomplish all your goals.
You just interrupted me, you jerk.
Did you know that trying harder creates a 33% increase in your ability to do things?
You're just making things up now.
And if you join today, you'll even get my patented lavender-infused crystals. I call them Trihardium.
Okay, first off, that's not how ADHD works at all. Many of us have real problems with things like executive dysfunction. And second, that's the stupidest name I've ever heard.
And for a limited time, I'll even throw in this awesome-looking thinking cap to help channel all that try-harder energy.
Okay, screw this. I'm out of here.
Hey, where are you going? I'm not done.
Get that, loser!
ADHD. That's not how it works. Don't be a Gipper.
And like I said, I think that wraps up this episode. Once again, thank you all the veterans from all the countries who have served. We appreciate you very much.
Yes,
I want to give a special shout out to the Goblin on the Squirrel Station, who is also a veteran, and we very much love her.
Yes.
So
she's so full of sunshine,
right? But that being said, we don't always do these podcasts, so you can find us throughout the social media webs. So, hey, Spaz, where can they find you when you're not doing the podcast?
Oh, same as usual. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, which I keep forgetting, but here it is, and Twitch as well, under ADHD Everything. I stream on Mondays and Fridays from 1:30 Mountain Time until about 4 p.m., except for the first Wednesday, typically of every month, where I do a dual stream with our resident trash panda.
That's me.
That's you. And we talk things like mental health on specific topics, or just any other random shit that we fall down the rabbit hole to.
Peanut butter shots.
Peanut butter shots. Yeah.
We had to talk about peanut butter shots in this episode. It was just a requirement, folks.
I'm sorry. Trigger warning.
Yes.
Peanut butter shots.
Whoops.
Yes.
Whoops.
So it is completely fitting for this episode. But it
100%.
And of course, in the I have a beacons list you'll find in the link in my bio, and of course that will take you to merch for the podcast. That will take you to the Squirrel Station Discord, and yeah, all sorts of other goodies.
Okay. And Lee, how about you? Where can they find you when you're not doing this wonderful opening act of the podcast?
Probably hiding under my fucking desk in tears from my rabid children.
It sounds about right.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I mean, occasionally you can also find me over on TikTok and on Twitch as Ley Plays Games. On Twitch, I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Tuesdays, I stream from 12 till 3. And you can find me on TikTok Live on Thursdays from 12 to 3. I'm also on YouTube, which I remembered this week.
Yeah.
At Ley Plays Games, and you can also follow me on Twitter at Ley Plays Games.
Excellent.
Perfect.
I didn't forget shit this time.
How about you, Patrick? Where can they find you?
You can still selectively find me on TikTok. I am still making videos here and there. And I'm also on Twitch as ADHD Silverback. I stream on Mondays and Thursdays from 10 p.m. till midnight Eastern Standard Time. Additionally, you can find me on the Squirrel Station Discord because I am a part of the moderation team over there. And I usually spend my time unwinding over there. I'm also constantly working on the podcast Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a Patreon, and we love our wonderful patrons who subscribe to this and help us to pay for all the surprise expenses that we had no idea when we impulsively decided to create a podcast.
Impulsivity? What?
So
Surprise! It's another expense, motherfucker!
So I do manage the Patreon page over there. So if you have any questions or concerns or anything like that, please feel free to let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you have any suggestions for things that you want to see in Season 2, please, questions, comments, concerns, suggestions can all be emailed to me at thewaitvwhatwasidoingpodcast@gmail.com.
That's right.
That was thewaitvwhatwasidoingpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to put the in there because some asshole took Wait, What Was I Doing? And some other asshole took Wait, What Was I Doing podcast? So I got stuck having to have the in front of it. How dare they not have the foresight to know that we were going to do this?
It's funny too because I actually looked that up and I never found one.
Right? Somebody just got an email and did never do it. So it sounds like an ADHD thing to me, but
kind of, yeah.
But anyways,
here we are.
There you guys go, folks. There you go, folks. So that's the first public announcement that we will be coming back for a season 2.
You bet.
So stand by.
Oh shit! Did I spill the beans?
No. They all knew we were coming back. Let's be real.
They assumed.
This was a lot of fun. We are definitely enjoy doing this podcast for you guys and calling you all out and each other out. And it's definitely one of the highlights of our week. So, we were coming back for a season 2. But there it is, folks. Season 2 going to be coming sometime next year. Stand by and we'll put out more information. Until then, we love you. We're glad you joined us.
Thank you.
Valid.
And we will see you again on the next show.
Take care, motherfuckers.
Later.
Wait, what was I doing? A squirrel, an ape, and a trash panda's ADHD podcast. Episode 8. Hosted by Ley Plays Games, ADHD Silverback, and ADHD Everything. Recorded on September 22nd in the Squirrel Station Discord. Mixed at Darkside Studios. Music by Stream Beats and Infraction. Many thanks to our patrons, Amanda, Annalisa, The Queen, Chelsea, Dawn, Janelle, Chaos, Linny, Rory, Topher, Barry, Brian, Per, and Road Toads. Thank you to this week's sponsor contributions, your ADHD Bestie Jen, ADHD Silverback, Schuster McGee, Jellybeans TV and ADHD Everything. Yes, we recycled some commercials in this episode. Deal with it. Tune in somewhere around Tuesday, November 16th to see if we can actually get an episode out on time. Bets can be placed by sending the money directly to Spaz. Because he's poor. And needs help. Seriously. So much help.
Once again, can't hear you, fucker.
I know you're recording this time, right?
Yup.
You weren't going to miss it again this time.